Hey everybody, welcome back. Brand new Friday review here for you today. Excited to get into today's show because we have something brand new for you. And of course, we're bringing back all of our typical Friday favorites, which are two new research studies that I want you, your family, your loved ones to know about. Always a product review or book review, but today we're also going to add, starting for 2026, the Personomics Tip of the Week. It's going to be a short, concise tip that I think it's going to allow you to better understand why the future of health is personal and why personalizing your plan makes the most sense. It's going to get you the results that you're looking for, not necessarily a family member, a friend, a coworker, etc. All right, so let's dive right into the show. If you missed any of the shows this week, this is the recap. On Monday, we went over why your standards shape your life more than your goals. I love that show. I love that topic. I try to give that at least once a year or so. And you want to check that one out, figuring out what your non-negotiables are as well. All right. On Tuesday's show, we went over our second show of the week, and it was another unsolved health mystery case study. This was case study number 8. Those are beginning to build up, which I'm excited about. You can find all the previous case studies and all shows at stephencabral.com/podcasts. This one was Kristen. Kristen suffering from migraines, headaches, maybe some hormonal imbalances. We went over one of her labs, and we shared with her from start to finish what the underlying root cause was. All right, Wednesday's show, the top 5 weight loss mistakes. I've now been doing this. I actually did the math. It's almost been 30 years of working with clients, part-time in the beginning, then full-time, of course, helping them with everything from, in the beginning, it was literally body transformation. And that's what I worked on with people almost exclusively for like 5 to 7 years. And then as I was working on my own health, I started to move more into functional medicine, integrative health, Ayurvedic medicine, etc. And then finally, I'm becoming a doctor of naturopathy. But it was a slow progression. And that's because I started when I was 18 years old and just, again, made all the mistakes, didn't know what I was doing and figuring out like a lot of people do along the way. And we've come a long way since then. All right. And then yesterday's show was these beans can help block cancer metastasis, multiple studies. I went over 3 specific studies, not just one, that show and the serving size, what you need in order to help, especially with colon-based cancer, which is a 3rd leading type of cancer in the United States. All right. That was all at stephencabral.com/podcasts for all previous shows. Let's dive into our product review of the week. Then we'll get into our brand new Personomics Tip of the week. All right. Product review of the week is something called citrus pectin. Some of you have heard about it, some of you may not, but it's an important one for us to look at. It is a specialty product, but in 2026, I want to talk about more specialty-based products. It won't be for everyone, but it could be for you, again, or a family member. If you're a practitioner, we've got a lot of practitioners listening, could be for one of your clients. So what is citrus pectin? It's basically an extract from the skin of citrus-based fruits. Now, we know that the volatile oils and specific enzymes inside of citrus, especially, like I said, the actual skin, can be really helpful. Some of them to remove bacteria or harmful fungus that shouldn't be there, or even molds, and some in this case to actually use the pectin. The difference with citrus pectin is different than regular pectin. So regular pectin is not really absorbable, and that's why it's in a lot of different binders. It helps bind things up, not absorbable. But this has a lower molecular weight. Why does that matter? Well, as you're about to see, it helps with inflammation, potentially cancer, and now I have to give you the disclaimer: I can't provide a medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, medical diagnosis. Chronic inflammation, fibrosis. We talked a lot about fibrinogen building up in the arteries, not good for the heart. Well, this product actually helps with a specific marker that can be measured, and that is called galectin-3, or just GAL3. So what modified citrus pectin does is it helps to bind up galectin-3 or GAL3, and it reduces its activity. So it may help with balancing healthy levels of inflammation, limiting fibrotic-based progression, and maybe even interfering with cancer cell aggregation, clumping together, basically enlarging, getting blood flow, and spreading. So it does this, again, it inhibits the growth factors for these things. What I want to share with you is this: the product, and again, I don't have any relation to this company, is called Pectisol, but it's the best company that I know of that does this, right? So there's a bunch of different brands. Look for a brand that you like. I'm just going to give you the exact dosage, and I'm just going to share with you what I use with a very small subset of my clients. Maybe only 1 out of 100 clients will get this product, and the dosage is this, very simple. 5 grams 2 to 3 times per day, typically away from food. So if I'm working with again, I can't even use the word. I got to come up with another word because we just get all of our videos blocked on YouTube. So I don't even know what to say, but we'll come up with something. We'll come up with something for the word cancer, right? We're going to come up with something for it. And so what we'll do is we'll do 5 to 10 grams with their morning greens drink, their morning whatever they're taking away from before their first smoothie. So that's what we're doing. And then we can do another one mid-afternoon. Again, 5 to 15 grams a day, typically pretty neutral taste. And it also helps with heavy metals, helps with overall detoxification. A pretty good product. I don't use it a lot myself. Maybe I'll put it in once a year while I'm doing my Equal Life heavy metal detox. I'll add it to just my smoothie because I just put a bunch of different powders in there. But truthfully, it's not one that I typically use a lot myself. But that doesn't mean it's not very useful for those who need it. All right. That was our product review of the week. Now let's dive into our first Personomics tip of the week. And so what I wanted to share with this is that most people are chasing healthy foods instead of asking themselves whether these foods are healthy for them. So this is so important because we see online gurus saying, follow the keto diet, follow the carnivore diet. This worked for me. Try this out. When for the most part, they're missing a foundational diet, which should always be started with. And then after a foundational diet, which is a real balanced diet, then we start to say, oh, I don't do so well with grains, or I don't do as well with nuts, or I do better with cooked vegetables versus raw. I do really well with leaner proteins rather than fattier proteins. My body doesn't absorb purines as well. It leads to higher uric acid in my body. So instead of just saying because again, all these foods could be healthy, right? Oh, people, think about 4 or 5 years ago, how much organ meat was being talked about. Not as much anymore, but just because again, the trend starts to go down. It doesn't mean organ meat is no longer healthy for you, but also people were way overdoing it. Organ meat's not meant to be eaten on a daily basis at a high amount, has a very high amount of purines. And as people get older, kidneys aren't working as well as they used to, not able to clear that as well. And so we have to understand is again, all of these things can be healthy, but for who and when? That's really what we're talking about. So foundational based diet, you can run your IgG food sensitivity test. You can start to move in a rotation diet. Why don't I put in those links here? Food sensitivity test, and then a very simple podcast I have on creating a rotation diet. I'll put that at stephencabral.com/3626. But just remember, if a food doesn't agree with your physiology, it's not healthy, meaning for you, it is not working with your body. So if someone tells you everybody should be putting 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in their morning smoothie or have it on an empty stomach, that doesn't mean it's healthy for you. All right, that's the Personomics tip of the week. Next up, we're moving into our research. I found this one pretty interesting because this has never been a test that I've personally used. It's an at-home test. Literally, you push in on your shin bone. So you take one finger and you push in your shin bone. Here's where most people are going to go wrong. They're going to push on the muscle instead of the bone. So basically, you could take either shin, and if you're looking down, on the outside is going to be the anterior tibialis. That's the muscle. Just go a little bit to the left of that, and it's going to be a harder surface. Sometimes it's even a little bit shinier, but go to the left of the muscle. The muscle might be tender, right? Because it's tight. But go to the left of it and press in. For some people, they'll feel real pain. Not just tenderness, real pain. And it can actually be a sign of low vitamin D. All right. Here's the why I've never used this test. Even though it actually is legitimate, it's very much end stage, meaning your vitamin D has been low for a while, right? It's been so low for a while that it is most likely allowing your bones to begin to deteriorate. And at that point, it's not that it's too late to fix, because absolutely these things are fixable. The problem is it's gone too long. So I'm not the biggest advocate of using this. Plus, you can have pain for different reasons, neurological reasons, nerve irritation, all sorts of different things. So Is it the most reliable test? No, but I found the research to be fascinating, that there is actually research on this. And so I wanted to share that with you. And it's at least something that you could begin to share with clients to see if they might have osteomalacia or some type of osteoporosis, breakdown osteopenia. Okay, so that is the truth on that study. And the last one of the show, research number 2, is going to be on black currants, sometimes called currants. I call them black currants. And black currants are essentially a dark berry. All right, so let's get to it right here. This is the recent study. Women ages 45 to 60 years old, led by researchers at the University of Connecticut, published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry. Bone mineral density did not decline in perimenopausal women and postmenopausal women given black currant powder capsules, either 392 milligrams or 784 milligrams per day for 6 months. Keep in mind, longer study. I like to see that. I like to see the legitimacy. In fact, women taking the higher daily amount showed an increase in bone density. Amazing. That was the variable change. The variable change was 784 milligrams a day of black currant powder. Now, it could also be put in a smoothie. You could take it as a powder. You don't have to take it as a capsule if you don't swallow capsules very well. Black currant reduced certain proteins linked to bone breakdown and changed the gut biome in ways that seem to support bone health. Further studies are planned. Black currant supplements generally are safe, but it's best to avoid them if you take blood thinners or have bleeding disorders because of blood clotting issues. So I said to myself, black currant, either way, is a very powerful antioxidant. It could be healthy for anyone. Just maybe like 3 or 4 months ago, I shared with you the powder that I started to add to my shake called chokeberry or wolfberry. Very high antioxidant. And the whole reason I started adding that, and it was fairly new to me, is because I was always using a lot of antioxidants in my smoothie. And when I started to look at what are the most powerful, what are the highest antioxidants and polyphenols out there, it was actually with chokeberry. And so I said, amazing. I think it has another name because of the Aconia berry. That's it, Aconia berry. And so when I looked at it and I said, how much do I really need to add? A teaspoon? That's it? Great. So that goes in my smoothie, and you can buy a big bag for like $20. So a lot of these things don't have to be a lot of money. If you don't mind adding all these little superfoods to your smoothie, one smoothie a day can be packed full of all of these nutrients. Hopefully today's show is helpful. All those show note links, all the research will be at stephencabral.com/3626. Have an amazing start to your weekend. I'll be back tomorrow with our Cabral House Calls.